Rick reunites with his ex, Unity, a hive mind entity that controls entire planets.
Hello, Rick. Long time no see.
Unity?
This isn't a normal relationship. It's a literal cosmic disaster. Rick and his family land on Unity's planet. And from the jump, Rick decides the best way to rekindle the flame is by partying, completely ignoring any societal responsibilities Unity has. It's like Rick heard, "You're the leader of a whole world," and said, "So what? Let's trash it."
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, Rick.
Unity doesn't just control a planet, she's controlling everyone on it. Every person is basically a drone with the same mind, all existing to serve Unity. Imagine having that much power and deciding, nah, let's let Rick come and just ruin everything. It's clear that Rick doesn't care about Unity's duties or the consequences of what he's doing. Instead of some romantic, deep reconnection,
I want you!
he takes it as an opportunity to indulge in unlimited chaos, throwing ragers, drinking endlessly, and encouraging everyone to throw their morals out the window. Rick's living his best life while Unity struggles to maintain even a semblance of order. It doesn't take long for the planet's entire system to start falling apart. People are rioting, everything's crumbling, and what's Rick doing? He's just sipping his drink and acting like a walking existential crisis. He doesn't give a damn about Unity's attempts to hold everything together. In fact, he only cares about his own personal amusement.
I'll be right back. Don't waste your brain on those weirdos, Unity.
To Rick, chaos is comfort. But when things finally get too out of hand, Unity breaks down. Her planet is on the brink of destruction. And it's all because Rick couldn't just keep it in his pants. Instead of recognizing that maybe he's the problem, Rick does what he does best. He gaslights Unity into thinking that she's the one who's messed up. The audacity! Rick's here, destroying everything, but it's her fault? At this point, you've got to wonder, how does anyone keep up with this level of emotional manipulation? And the ultimate betrayal comes when Unity, realizing she can't keep up with Rick's chaos anymore, decides to leave him.
Rick, forgive me for doing this in notes. I'm not strong enough to do it in person.
The sheer level of self-awareness in this situation, Unity's out here literally controlling entire civilizations and still recognizes that Rick's a walking disaster. Meanwhile, Rick, he sheds a few tears. But as always, he's more upset about being alone than actually reflecting on what he's done. This episode is classic Rick. Disastrous, toxic, and utterly devoid of emotional intelligence. He has everything at his disposal, and yet, he can't even maintain a single relationship. Instead of confronting his feelings, he destroys the very world that loved him. Welcome to Look Who's Purging Now, where Rick and Morty crash land on a planet that's literally just a giant weekend getaway for people who want to, purge.
I know what this is. You've been able to sustain world peace because you have one night a year where you all run around robbing and murdering
Yup,
each other.
this planet's entire society is built around the idea that once a year, everyone goes full Lord of the Flies on each other. It's like Hunger Games, but with less plot and more murder. And of course, Rick's just like, yeah, whatever, let's play along.
They just purge.
That's horrible!
Yeah. You want to check it out?
Rick, Morty end up in the middle of this homicidal festival. And Rick's just rolling his eyes at the whole thing. He's like, yeah, the humans can't get their acts together, so let's just let them kill each other. This is definitely going to end well.
Oh my god, this is fucking awesome!
And honestly, if that's not the vibe of Rick Sanchez in one sentence, I don't know what is. And Morty, on the other hand, actually get caught up in the purge, which is a new level of, oops, guess we're all gonna die today. But the real fun starts when Morty decides he's had enough of the purge and tries to be a good guy.
That poor girl! We have to save her!
Saving people, while Rick's off doing his own thing, as usual. Of course, ends up on his own side adventure, putting together a super complex plan to screw over the planet's government. Because why not? Meanwhile, Morty is just trying to survive.
I can't run around chopping people's heads off one day a year and then sleep well the rest of the time!
By the end, the whole purge thing goes completely sideways, and everyone is in danger. Because, guess what? When you give people the freedom to murder each other for a day, they're probably not going to be all that responsible with it. Shocking, right? In classic Rick fashion, the only solution to this mess is to just, reset everything. Because why not? It's not like Rick has any attachment to these people or their planet. The episode ends with Rick, Morty, basically just bailing on the whole place like it's no big deal. They're just here for the ride, causing destruction and leaving without any real consequences.
I need food. Who's got food for that guy?
I do, but this is for me.
Just another day in the life of the Sanchez family. Look Who's Purging Now is pretty simple. Rick's the world's most chaotic tour guide. and everyone else is just trying to survive. Another day, another disaster. Alright, hold on to your butts, because this is the episode that's literally the internet's wet dream, Pickle Rick. Yeah, you heard that right. Rick literally turns himself into a pickle to avoid family therapy. And honestly, I've never seen a more Rick thing to do in my entire life. The episode kicks off with the family sitting around a table for their weekly family therapy session.
The family was told to get counseling by your principal.
And what does Rick do? He decides, you know what would be a great idea? Turning myself into a pickle just so I don't have to deal with my emotions.
I'm not a snake. I'm a pickle. I'm a pickle.
Like, bro, are you even trying to solve anything? Or are you just avoiding being a functional human being? Pickle Rick is what happens when you're a genius, but have the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old boy who just found out he can fart in a jar and sell it for cash. We're not talking about a super soldier or a man in a mech suit. We're talking about a guy who's now a vegetable with a genius brain and a whole bunch of weapons at his disposal. And what does Rick do? He absolutely wrecks a bunch of rats in the sewer, like he's trying to prove a point to the world. Like, Rick, we get it. You're a pickle and you can kill rats. But why are you so extra? Then we get a whole montage of Rick turning his pickle body into a makeshift weapon. Like, what are we even watching here? He literally turns a rat into a bomb, makes a flamethrower out of his own urine, and goes full-on MacGyver, except if MacGyver was absolutely insane and also had a death wish. This entire subplot is just Rick flexing on the idea that he's too clever for his own good. He's literally turning a situation where he could just go to therapy into a bloodbath in a rat-infested sewer. But hey, he's Rick Sanchez, and who's gonna stop him? Meanwhile, back in the real world, the family's still trying to go through therapy. But no, Rick isn't there. He's off playing Pickle Ninja in a sewer somewhere. So what's the family left to do? They start dealing with their issues.
Affecting your kids with a tendency to misdirect their feelings.
Fuck you.
Mom!
Fuck both of you two.
And of course, it's just a slow unraveling of how deeply messed up everyone is. Because, surprise, surprise, therapy actually works. Beth is a whole mess dealing with her daddy issues. Morty's terrified of actually talking about his feelings. And Summer's just like, I guess this is normal? My grandpa's a pickle, and my dad is a giant emotional disaster. And then, just when you think it's all about the therapy side plot, we circle back to Pickle Rick. Yeah, the man's still in the sewer, fighting an entire gang of heavily armed humans.
We got them.
Armed with nothing but pickle juice and his raw determination to avoid confronting his trauma. You gotta love it when Rick goes full sociopath mode just to keep from doing something that remotely resembles personal growth. The guy's so allergic to his own emotions, he'd rather go full Terminator in a rat-infested sewer than face any of his own shortcomings. At the peak of this absolute lunacy, Rick's fighting his way through an underground cartel, and it's honestly the most Rick moment ever. Reckless, violent, and deeply, deeply unnecessary.
You should know, those men killed themselves.
And how is that?
It's like watching a kid who's been given too many toys. Rick's just using everything at his disposal to cause as much chaos as possible. And of course, the kicker is that Rick finally ends up back in the therapy session. The whole episode culminates in Rick getting caught in his own mess of avoidance, as he has to face the very thing he was running from, himself.
I've heard a lot about you today. Your family is crazy about you.
But the best part? He totally doesn't get it. He just sits there smugly like, yeah, I'm awesome. I'm Pickle Rick. I saved the day.
Yeah, thank you. Sweetie, you don't still happen to have that syringe in your purse?
But did he actually deal with any of his issues? Nope. Classic Rick. Solve everything with violence. Then call it a victory. In the end, Rick's little pickle adventure just highlights the core truth of his character. He's a genius, but he's also the worst when it comes to self-awareness. He'd rather become a literal pickle, fight gangsters, and kill rats than sit down and talk about his feelings. And, honestly, that's what makes Pickle Rick such a memorable episode. It's pure Rick. Total chaos, no emotional growth, and a very weird amount of rat-based combat. So, yeah, Pickle Rick is the epitome of what happens when you're too smart for your own good, but also so emotionally stunted that you can't deal with a simple therapy session. The moral of the story? Maybe. Just maybe. Therapy is the real battle Rick can't win. Rick is back. And this time he's not just escaping prison, he's taking down an entire intergalactic government while casually eating their lunch. The Rick Shank Rickademption kicks off with Rick in the clutches of the Galactic Federation, locked up tighter than the plot of Inception, but of course that doesn't stop him from being way too smug about the whole thing. From the very beginning, Rick's like, oh, you thought you could hold me? I'm Rick Sanchez. I break out of jails faster than most people can order a coffee.
Rick, here's...
And honestly, He's right. Rick's the kind of guy who doesn't just escape a prison, he owns it. What makes it even worse is that the Galactic Federation, this big bad universal power, thinks they've got him cornered. They're all sitting around like, we've won, it's over, we've neutralized the greatest threat in the galaxy. And Rick's like, Lamau, no you haven't. Let me just take a moment to dismantle your entire existence.
Payback.
Grandpa Rick!
Duh.
The episode goes full meta with the mind prison concept, where Rick's mental gymnastics are so strong, they make the Federation's entire interrogation process look like kindergarten arts and crafts. Rick literally plays a psychic version of Guess Who against them while making them think they're winning. He turns their own system of control back on them. The Federation gets absolutely wrecked by Rick's sheer ability to fuck with their minds, and it's honestly hilarious because they never even see it coming. But the true evil genius of this episode isn't just in Rick breaking out of prison, it's in what happens next. While everyone's focused on Rick's escape, the man has one goal in mind: Szechuan sauce.
Had this promotion for the Disney film Mulan, where they created a new sauce for the McNuggets called Szechuan
That's
sauce.
right. Not family or freedom, but a goddamn dipping sauce from McDonald's. And if you're wondering, but why would Rick risk everything for that? The answer is simple. Because it's Rick Sanchez. He doesn't need a deep reason to destroy a galaxy. It's just because he wants to. And look, as ridiculous as it sounds, that's the perfect Rick moment. He's willing to burn it all down for the stupidest things. And then, to wrap things up with a nice little bow, Rick pulls off what is basically a multiversal escape. Like, it's not enough for him to break out of the Federation's prison.
Take this, you're gonna need it later.
He takes down their entire infrastructure from the inside. They don't just lose Rick, they lose their power. They lose their grip. They lose their minds.
It is the honor they'll feel to serve their... Wait, who's paying me to yell at this guy?
And all because one guy wanted a goddamn sauce from the night.
This sauce is fucking amazing. You said it was promoting a movie?
Iconic. Meanwhile, Morty's sitting there, trying to hold on to his sanity. And you can just tell he's about 2 steps away from writing a novel called Why I Hate My Grandfather. In the end, Rick's not just escaping a physical prison. He's breaking out of the psychological one the Federation tried to put him in. And
What do you guys got me in a Series 9000? You cheap insect fucks didn't think I was worth your best equipment?
true to form, he makes sure the entire galaxy knows that nobody, and I mean nobody, can hold him down.
You want me to get intel out of the smartest mammal in the galaxy? You better give me a decent brainwash.
Rick Sanchez is the definition of chaos incarnate, a walking disaster who somehow always comes out on top, or at least finds a way to make everyone else look like the losers. So let's wrap this up. The Rick Shank Rick redemption is peak Rick, utterly selfish, deeply manipulative, and somehow managing to look like the smartest guy in the room while simultaneously throwing the universe into complete and utter chaos. And all for a goddamn Szechuan sauce. What a guy. Alright folks, buckle up, because we're diving into A Wrinkle in Time, the episode where time gets so fractured, even the laws of physics are like, we're out of here. This one's got it all. Split realities, quantum shenanigans, and Morty making things worse just by existing. Let's go. So we start off right where Season 1 left us, frozen in time. Rick, Morty, and Summer are unfreezing everything after their wild party.
Just to be clear, it was Summer's job to put the mattress under...
What? It was your job, Morty.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, huh?
But Rick warns them to be super careful because time is fragile.
Actually, sorry, Summer. I gotta back the M-bomb on this one. I remember the conversation.
And by fragile, he means don't mess up, or we'll be dealing with timelines that make Inception look like a kid's bedtime story.
Shut up, you big female asshole!
Naturally, the first thing Morty and Summer do is mess up. Summer wants to fix a broken table, and Morty, being Morty, wants to fix Summer's face.
Hey, don't shove me!
I didn't!
You didn't
What's
what?
your problem?
What's yours?
Shut up!
You shut up!
Rick's like, great, you idiots just cracked time like it's an egg on a hot sidewalk. Now, they're stuck in a fractured reality with multiple versions of themselves. It's chaos. It's hilarious. It's science gone wrong in the best way possible.
I don't feel good. Am I talking right now? I think so. Wait, who said that?
The visual effects here? Chef's kiss. We've got 2 Ricks, 2 Mortys, 2 Summers.
2 dots? This never needs to be more than 1 dot. The 2 of you made us uncertain.
All slightly out of sync, arguing about which version is the real one. Rick's just standing there, screaming at them like a dad who just discovered his kids used the good scissors to cut pizza. He pulls out his classic move, blaming Morty for everything. And honestly, fair.
Dad, get your head out of your family's ass. The 3 of us are lost in a timeless oblivion.
Meanwhile, back at the Smith household, Beth and Jerry are doing absolutely nothing helpful. Instead, they're arguing over whether or not Jerry should take a dying deer to the vet.
Holy shit! What happened?
That's right, folks. While the universe is literally falling apart, these 2 are out here debating wildlife ethics like it's a slow day on Twitter.
I think we have to just
It's okay. This is just something that happened.
Back to the main action. Rick decides to stabilize the timelines by building a collar that merges the realities back together.
You see that? Get down!
Sounds simple, right? Because now the characters are competing to see who can screw things up the fastest.
Oh god, now there's 3 of them! We're outnumbered!
Rick's yelling, Morty's panicking, and Summer? She's just vibing until an angry space-time being shows up to annihilate them all. And let's talk about this space-time being for a second. It's a giant, floating head, voiced by none other than Key from Key and Peele.
What the fuck? Your time is all whipped up to hell. You broke your time twice.
This guy is here to enforce cosmic justice. And his vibe? Basically, I'll destroy you, but first, I'll roast you.
Yes!
We're
No
back!
more cats!
Problem
No more
solved!
cats! Oh, you did it! You fixed it!
He's dragging Rick for his ego, Morty for his stupidity, and Summer for existing, I guess? It's brutal.
You stole a time-freezing crystal from testicle monsters?
But Rick thrives under pressure. He's all like, screw you, Space Snark, and pulls a last-ditch move to save the day.
You killed my gun.
He tries to sacrifice himself to fix the timeline, but plot twist, the collars don't work properly.
Give me your collars!
Oh man, don't you have to fix like 30 of them?
Now Rick's stuck floating in infinite nothingness. It's just him, his thoughts, and his infinite regrets. Honestly, relatable.
Oh, Rick!
Morty!
Eventually, Rick fixes the timeline by sheer force of genius and ego.
Be good, Morty. Be better than me.
He reappears, acting like he totally planned it all along.
Yes! Fuck you, God! Not today, bitch! Yes, I did it!
And Morty, he's just glad they're not dead. Meanwhile, Summer's like, can I go now?
Yes!
All right! You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, it was a close call.
Yeah!
And then there's the subplot with Beth and Jerry. Surprise. They somehow managed to save the deer. It's a wholesome little moment in an episode that's otherwise a giant middle finger to the concept of normal. The episode ends with Rick declaring, "We're back, baby!" and Morty wondering why he didn't just stay in bed. Classic Rick and Morty. So what's the takeaway here? Time is weird. Rick's a genius. Morty's a disaster. Summer's the unsung hero. And Jerry? Still useless. This episode is a perfect mix of absurdity, science, and emotional trauma. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. That's it for this one. Stick around, because you know, things only get crazier from here. Alright, buckle up, because we're diving into The Ricks Must Be Crazy, an episode where Rick once again proves that if there's one thing he's really good at, it's creating absolute mayhem. And this time, it involves a literal universe inside his car battery. No biggie, right?
What's wrong, Rick? Is it the quantum carburetor or something?
The episode kicks off with Rick's car battery conveniently dying, as one does when you're Rick Sanchez.
Huh. Looks like something's wrong with the microverse battery.
And the family ends up discovering that the car battery itself is powered by an entire micro-universe of tiny, enslaved people. That's right.
Keep Summer safe.
Rick's battery has a society inside it.
Morty, remember 8 seconds ago when you said go inside what? And I said the battery?
And Rick? He's totally chill about it, as if this is just another Tuesday for him. Oh yeah, there's a whole society running on the energy of this car. What's the big deal?
No, don't hurt anybody!
Like, excuse me, Rick? You can't just create a society inside a battery and expect everyone to be fine with it. But of course, that's exactly what he does.
I thought we were inside your car battery, Rick! This is like a whole planet or something!
So as Rick's family is freaking out, he's basically like, yeah, I knew about this, but I couldn't be bothered to actually care about the moral implications of it. Also, can we talk about how amazing I am for literally making a universe just to power my car? Genius!
You have a whole planet sitting around making your power for you? That's slavery!
Rick is, as always, a walking contradiction. He's a brilliant scientist, but also the most irresponsible person in the entire multiverse.
Who once gave our world the gift of Google Box technology.
If someone else created a universe inside their car battery, we'd be calling them a villain. But Rick? He's too busy patting himself on the back to realize that the real villain here is his ego.
Just slowly extending down.
Meanwhile, Morty and Summer are in the car, trying to survive this whole absurd adventure. Summer's literally asking if it's wrong that Rick is enslaving an entire society for his own personal convenience.
Couldn't help but notice that you were having problems generating power.
And Morty's like, yeah, of course it's wrong, but this is Rick. We're gonna let it slide because that's what we do. They both have that, oh God, what has our life become? Look on their faces, while Rick's out here acting like it's all just another science project.
Zeep, this is Rick, the alien.
Morty's over here worried about his family's safety. but you can tell he's already starting to get used to the idea that his grandpa is basically a space dictator. Now, Rick's not just messing with some small-time batteries. No. He's got a whole alternate dimension where things are just as chaotic as you'd expect.
With a planet capable of generating massive amounts of power.
The people in this universe are scrambling to keep the power running because if the battery dies, they die too. And Rick is just using them as disposable fuel for his luxury vehicle. At this point, you'd think Rick would at least show a little bit of guilt, but nope. He's too busy getting irritated when the whole system starts to fail.
80% of every crank's energy output gets channeled out of the miniverse to be used by us.
It's like, dude, you literally caused this disaster. Take a step back and reflect. Meanwhile, on the other side of the universe, Rick's own battery, powered by the lives of countless sentient beings, is now facing its own existential crisis.
Let me ask you something.
Yes?
Any of your scientists working on anything new?
Rick has essentially created a multiverse of suffering inside this one battery, and the tiny beings in this universe have created their own version of Rick.
I told them this means peace among worlds.
And surprise, surprise, this tiny Rick isn't any better than the real one. He's just as self-absorbed and morally bankrupt as the original. Because, of course, Rick's entire personality would be contagious, even inside a micro-universe.
You don't think that's overdoing it a little? I mean, you could achieve the same effect with a pair of... Never mind.
Imagine living in a world where everyone is just like Rick, narcissistic, manipulative, and full of wild ideas about how to destroy everything for fun.
Wonders of electricity via a pulley-based device I call a blue yank.
That's Rick's gift to the universe. Infinite, self-destructive chaos. By the time we hit the climax, Rick has to fight his own creation.
What the hell is happening?
This is healthy, trust me.
Tiny Rick, because Tiny Rick decided to play God inside his own tiny universe. It's honestly just a full circle moment of ridiculousness.
And your miniverse is the size of a fucking lobster tank! It's whack!
And yet, Rick somehow manages to win by essentially continuing the cycle of destruction and indifference.
Ow!
In the end, his solution is to leave the universe in a mess, without ever acknowledging the suffering he's caused.
In a microverse.
Oh! Classic Rick. Take what you want, leave everything worse than you found it, and just move on. That's Rick's brand. Rick is literally the worst in this episode, creating a universe for his own convenience, wrecking lives just so his car can keep running, and then, when the whole thing falls apart, just leaving it behind like a piece of trash.
Destroy this whole universe.
Excuse me?
The episode ends with him barely acknowledging the damage he's done and focusing more on his next big scheme.
You quit school, but you still got some learning to do.
Because what else is Rick going to do other than break everything around him and then act like the universe owes him a medal for it? So yeah, The Ricks Must Be Crazy is an episode where Rick is at his peak narcissistic best, making a universe for himself, enslaving a society, and using it all to power his car. It's a perfect reflection of Rick as a person. Brilliant, but completely self-centered and morally bankrupt. And that's what makes Rick so frustratingly hilarious. He's a genius, but he has zero regard for the people or universes he crushes along the way. That's it, folks. Rick's chaos knows no bounds. Like, subscribe, and tell us your favorite Rick moment. See you next time.